Have you ever thought that certain everyday habits, seemingly harmless, might be draining your mental strength without you realizing it? Yes, those behaviors we perform almost on autopilot could be the very ones that weaken us in the face of challenges. And more, mental strength is not something acquired just with talent or intelligence, but with consistent and mindful actions. It's like a gym for the mind, every decision, every habit counts. Now, imagine this: what if there was a way to recognize and transform these habits? Imagine the impact of learning to replace them with practices that genuinely strengthen the mind, making us more resilient and able to handle any obstacle. In this video, we'll reveal how Buddhism, with its ancient wisdom, provides tools to reshape our mindset and eliminate those 10 habits that most weaken the mind. And look, some of these habits are so common that, when you notice them, you'll wonder how you hadn't spotted them before. So, if you sometimes feel a lack of strength to face certain situations or find it difficult to maintain focus and inner peace, stick with us until the end. We'll explore each of these habits and show, step by step, how to reverse them. After all, who doesn't want a stronger, more balanced mind? Let's discover together how you can unleash your mind's potential and move toward a fuller life. Having a strong mind is a game changer that transforms our life experience. Letting ourselves be taken over by negative thoughts is like covering up the brightness of our own happiness with a heavy cloud. This habit ends up weakening our mind, as we start to see the world through a dark lens, missing out on positive moments around us. Over time, negativity shapes our actions and decisions, often preventing us from taking risks and growing. In Buddhism, the practice of mindfulness invites us to observe our thoughts without judgment. Rather than letting negativity drown us, the idea is to acknowledge these thoughts and calmly redirect our focus to positive aspects. Imagine your mind as a sky and negative thoughts as passing clouds. The practice of observing, without clinging, allows the sun of happiness to shine through again, bringing lightness and well-being. Additionally, Buddhism offers us the practice of metta, or loving-kindness meditation. The idea here is to direct warm and positive thoughts toward ourselves and others, gradually transforming a negative outlook into a more compassionate and optimistic one. When this practice is woven into daily life, even the toughest situations lose some of their shadows. Compassion helps us face adversity with resilience, aware that everything passes, both good and bad. Complaining about things outside our control is a habit that weakens the mind, like trying to hold on to a burning coal. It's us who get burned. This behavior locks us into a negative, passive mindset, focused on what's wrong instead of seeking solutions. By concentrating on what we can't change, we waste valuable energy that could be used to strengthen our mind and our capacity to act. Buddhism teaches us that everything is impermanent, and this includes tough situations. Accepting that nothing stays the same forever allows us to face challenges more lightly, as we understand that even difficulties come to an end. This practice of acceptance is like learning to dance in the rain instead of complaining about the storm. It invites us to stop struggling against the inevitable and, instead, find peace amidst the turmoil. By focusing on what we can control, as Buddhism suggests, we shift from a passive mindset to an active, problem-solving attitude. It's like steering a boat in a storm. We can't change the weather, but we can navigate. With the practice of letting go, also a Buddhist teaching, we begin to release complaints and embrace a lighter, more open approach to what life brings us, strengthening our resilience and well-being. Not expressing your thoughts and feelings is like keeping a treasure in a locked chest. Only you know what's inside, but no one else can see its shine. This habit weakens the mind because when we don't share what we feel, we accumulate tensions and may feel isolated. Over time, this lack of expression turns into a trap that distances us from others and prevents us from finding support and understanding in times of need. Buddhism values authentic expression as a pillar of mental well-being. The practice of right speech, communicating with kindness, truth, and positive intention, helps create genuine connections with those around us. By expressing ourselves with clarity and kindness, we plant seeds of understanding, which can bloom into healthier, deeper relationships. Beyond words, our expression can also be nonverbal, through gestures, facial expressions, or even a sincere smile. Just as Buddhism teaches us to be mindful of every action, the way we move can convey what we feel. It's like opening a window to let fresh air in. By expressing ourselves, we bring more lightness and clarity to the mind, strengthening not only ourselves but also the environment we are in. Blaming others for our problems is like trying to run with a backpack full of rocks. It just slows us down and makes us lose control of our own path. This habit takes away our autonomy, putting us in the role of passive spectators in our own lives. By blaming others, we're actually handing over the direction of our experiences to something outside ourselves, making our minds more fragile and dependent. In Buddhism, the concept of karma reminds us that we are responsible for our actions and that every choice shapes our path. Taking responsibility for our experiences shows us that, even in difficult situations, we have the power to respond positively. It's like taking the wheel on a winding road. We can't control everything around us, but we choose where we want to go. Practicing forgiveness is one of the keys to overcoming the habit of blaming. Forgiveness doesn't mean accepting or justifying someone else's error, it means freeing ourselves from the weight of anger and resentment. When we forgive, it's like removing an unnecessary burden from our shoulders, allowing the mind to feel lighter and free to focus on what truly matters. This lightness gives us the strength to move forward, taking control of our lives with determination and clarity.
Want to transform your life from the inside out? Check out our ebook with practical tools for real change. Go to the pinned comment, click the link, and see how to start your transformation today.
Fantasizing without action is like building castles in the air, beautiful to imagine, but with no foundation to keep them standing. This habit weakens our minds because it disconnects us from reality and the present moment, leaving us lost in illusions that ultimately lead to frustration. Dreaming without taking concrete steps is like chasing a mirage in the desert. Buddhism teaches us the importance of realistic visualization, where we envision an achievable goal and take practical actions to reach it. In visualization, we create a clear map of what we want to achieve. Instead of dreaming of the impossible, we form a concrete vision and outline the steps to reach it. This practice grounds us in the present, helping to transform dreams into real goals. With the practice of impermanence, Buddhism also reminds us that reality is constantly changing. This teaches us to be flexible, adapting our expectations based on what life presents us. Instead of being attached to a fixed fantasy, we adjust our path, always focusing on tangible achievements. It's like riding the waves of life. We accept changes and move forward, making our minds more resilient and determined. Neglecting personal relationships is like having a garden and never watering the plants. Over time, everything dries up and loses life. When we fail to give attention to important people, we end up isolated, which weakens our mind. The bonds we build are like emotional anchors that provide support, and without them, we may feel like we're navigating alone in rough seas. Buddhism teaches that presence and attention are essential to nurturing relationships. When we are truly present with our loved ones, without distractions or worries, we're watering these bonds, strengthening them and creating a foundation of trust and support. Sincere presence acts like sunlight that allows plants to grow. A simple gesture of attention can work wonders for a friendship or family bond. Furthermore, Buddhism reminds us of impermanence. Everything passes, including the time we have with those we love. Understanding this motivates us to value each moment, as they are unique and unrepeatable. By investing in caring for our relationships, we build a support network that strengthens our mind and helps us face life's challenges. In doing so, we not only fortify ourselves but also enrich the lives of those around us. Letting emotions control our actions is like being swept away by a current. We lose control and are at the mercy of the tides. When governed by emotional impulses, our minds weaken, as reactions become automatic and often harmful. It's like being in a storm without a compass, reacting without reflecting and running the risk of getting lost. Buddhism values the practice of mindfulness so that we can observe emotions without being dominated by them. This practice teaches us to observe our feelings clearly, gaining a broader view. We can take a step back, breathe deeply, and respond consciously, like having a rudder that allows us to navigate instead of just floating. Additionally, developing emotional intelligence, valued in Buddhism, enables us to understand and manage our emotions and those of others with compassion. When we cultivate this skill, our mind becomes more balanced and resilient, capable of weathering any storm with serenity. In this way, we learn to be captains of our own emotional ship, maintaining calm and clarity even when the winds seem unfavorable. Trying to control everything around us is like trying to hold water in our hands. The more we squeeze, the more it slips away. This habit of wanting to dominate every situation drains us mentally and leads to frustration, as the world around us is, by nature, unpredictable. When we insist on controlling everything, we're just building up unnecessary tension and weakening our minds. Buddhism teaches us the practice of letting go, which involves releasing the illusion of control. When we accept that some things are simply beyond our power, we free our minds from constant struggle. It's like letting a balloon go into the air. Instead of agonizing over what we can't change, we learn to go with the flow, focusing on what's truly within our reach. This acceptance doesn't mean giving up but prioritizing where we put our energy. By letting go of what we can't control, we become more resilient and better prepared to deal with uncertainty. It's like planting a seed and tending to it with dedication, knowing that weather and soil also influence growth. When we embrace this mindset, the mind strengthens, becoming more flexible and open to whatever comes. Dwelling on the past is like carrying a backpack full of stones. The weight of guilt, regret, and resentment only slows us down on life's journey. This habit of ruminating on what has already happened prevents us from fully living in the present and looking to the future with hope. By focusing on what we can't change, we miss out on the opportunities that life offers us each day. Buddhism suggests the practice of mindfulness as a way to release these shackles. By focusing on the here and now, we create space for the freshness and novelty of life. It's like opening the windows of a stuffy room. The light of the present can come in and brighten our minds. When we allow ourselves to live fully in the present, we transform what was once a burden into a new chance to begin again. The practice of forgiveness is also fundamental to freeing ourselves from the past. Forgiving not only others but also ourselves is essential to breaking cycles of guilt. Buddhism teaches that forgiveness is a liberating act, allowing us to leave behind what no longer serves us. Life becomes lighter and full of possibilities, enabling us to move forward with an open heart, ready to embrace new experiences. Worrying about what others say and do is like carrying around a heavy backpack filled with others' thoughts. It weighs us down and clouds our authenticity. When we base our self-esteem on others' judgments, we become vulnerable, like a boat adrift, guided by winds we can't control. This habit weakens our minds because it causes us to lose our sense of self-worth, replacing it with a constant need for approval. Buddhism invites us to cultivate equanimity, a quality that helps us remain calm amid praise or criticism. Practicing equanimity is like standing firmly on the ground while the winds of others' opinions blow around us. This way, we stay centered and avoid being shaken by fluctuations in acceptance or disapproval, preserving our mental strength and authenticity. Additionally, by embracing acceptance and self-love, we learn to see ourselves through our own eyes, without depending on external validation. Buddhism teaches that a person's worth is found in their essence, not in the views of others. When we free ourselves from the need for external validation, our minds strengthen, allowing us to follow our own path with confidence. This internal security forms the foundation for an authentic life, where we are guided by what truly matters, our inner truth. Now that you know these 10 habits that weaken the mind, the question remains, are you ready to transform them and reach a new level of mental strength? Imagine the impact of applying these teachings in your daily life, swapping complaints for acceptance, illusions for action, and others' judgments for self-confidence. Every change you make becomes a building block in the construction of a stronger, more balanced, and resilient mind. Have you ever thought about how your life would look if these negative habits were no longer part of it? And what can you do, today, to start this journey of mental strengthening? Embrace the Buddhist practices we discussed and allow yourself to explore each one. Remember, transformation begins with the first step, and the only thing separating you from a more powerful mind is the decision to act. If you enjoyed this content and want to keep learning, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. That way, you won't miss any updates and can stay on course in this journey of self-discovery and personal growth.